Hey, it's Chase from On the Table Gaming, and once again the flames flicker, providing another glimpse of what's to come in the 2021 update for Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game. Now today we're going to be talking about Articles 3 and 4, Durability and Effectiveness, and Faction Identity and Tactics. Now if you haven't already checked out our recap video for the first two articles, be sure to check them out, and if you enjoy this content, be sure to like and subscribe. Now these last two articles are by far the most significant, starting with outlining the changes coming to units in 2021, and how all units have been examined, adjusted, or evaluated to address combat effectiveness, rank effectiveness, die numbers, and cost to effectiveness. So in that article number 3, Michael Chanel explained the number of raw dice and stat boosts is something that they wanted to cut down on. And across units, we can expect to see a trend towards units having a reduction to their combat effectiveness in their base profile. Now, in the context of all of these changes, one of the big things that the dev and design team wanted to do was to reduce the capability to one-shot units from max wounds to dead, or essentially into a non-viable single rank unit. On our developer chat podcast, Fabio Curry, the lead developer, tied this into a desire not to change, but to refocus on the importance of ranks, one of the central mechanics of the game. Now, this is echoed in the article where it's pointed out that we worked a lot of top-end numbers and generally increased the bottom-end ones, making it so if a unit is alive, it's always going to contribute and be a threat. Now, through increasing the attack dice on the last rank or other buffs that keep units effective, that doesn't mean you want to be losing ranks unnecessarily. In fact, the Lannister Guardsmen update helps illustrate how ranks are playing a bigger role in the 2021 update more than ever. The previous version of Lannister Guardsmen benefited equally from its Lannister supremacy ability while on one rank or at full health. Now, with the 2021 update, we see Lannister supremacy tied to an order, which is also tied to the number of ranks in the unit. There's both an additional choice point over when you want to use it in the round, and you're also rewarded for using it at higher ranks. This adds an extra layer of nuance to the game in that it allows for smart play, so you can really show your skill as you're playing. There's some additional ripple effects too about how this might be affecting how you would approach things in general. Now keeping this unit at full health so that it can dish out its -3 test with +3 wounds at full strength. Remember, there's an "and" in there. It becomes a more compelling situation in that the unit overall has room for being skillfully piloted, and it really highlights the direction that unit design is headed in A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game. Additionally, the examination of units' cost to effectiveness is explored, boiling down to essentially a rebalancing of what it means to be elite. In the 2021 update, Elite looks to be having stats like a 3+ to hit, 3+ defense, morale buffs, etc., things to that effect. Now it's interesting to think that the Greyjoy faction released prior to the update is built with this update in mind, so you may be able to get a glimpse of things to come by examining the stats and abilities of those units. Now, we've already been shown an example of an elite unit with the Baratheon stag rework, teased in the first Visions in the Flames article, but another unit that was revealed was the preview of the Bloody Mummer Skirmishers. The Skirmishers rework see them getting expanded keywords as they more efficiently fill out their role as a tar pit duelist style unit. With the capability to tie up units with its agile and counter-strike, this is a great example of a unit having some changes that really help to solidify its role more clearly. Interestingly, Michael Chanel explained that this was an example of a unit that's on the cusp of counting as getting a revamp. So when we're talking about those 80 to 20% numbers, where 80% of the units are getting minor tweaks, 20% are getting overhauls, this would fall right on the cusp, so possibly still be considered in that 80% with the Guardsmen. So it kind of gives you an idea of just how big these changes might be, and that every unit's getting touched, but the 20% ones are going to be like the Stag Knights. They get a more serious overhaul. Now, in their fourth article, CMON finally revealed major changes to the tactics cards for each faction. Now, we're going to be holding off on any analysis until we get more context, because really we don't know what the rest of the decks are going to look like, what the commander cards are going to look like, or really what the other units that they're going to be involved in influencing are. But just a quick rundown in case you're not up to date on what those changes to the tactics cards are. Now, Lannister's Subjugation of Power showcases how House Lannister will double down on the control aspects in the 2021 update, with a cumulative penalty to morale depending on the zones the Lannister player is able to control. Now, there's plenty of room for the opponent to have counterplay and mitigate this, so it adds more of that back and forth take to the game that already makes this game so great. But it really makes me wonder what Cersei Lannister will look like in the future, as this could really synergize with her current morale debuff. Now, fan favorites House Stark see Winter's Might join its tactics deck, giving a melee attack bonus with self-inflicted 2 wounds reduced by the number of destroyed ranks in your unit. Now, this card continues on its legacy of House Stark's theme of taking damage to deal more damage. And I think it kind of illustrates that idea of ranks also being important still, but with less randomness. You're not rolling a D3 like, Stark's Fury. It's just 2 minus the ranks. Now, Sustained Assault teases a Baratheon tactics cards that can be used on melee attack, but gains a bonus if the unit begins engaged. With the Baratheons being a slower faction, cards like this help to make up for the lack of alpha strike abilities, and like Winter's Might, showcases the greater emphasis on ranks in determining effects in the game now, in that you're using this card to help mitigate some of those rank disadvantages. Now, this tactics card is really cool, and I like how it has the bonus for starting engage, but doesn't require it, right? And in addition, on my wish list, I'm hoping that the Baratheon tactics cards don't have as many overlapping triggers. Now, the Free Folks coordinated tactics allow friendly units to share abilities, and the ability to trigger a start of turn order helps you get abilities off without conflicting with the card's trigger. Now, this is a fascinating tactics card, as it hints at the Horde identity being more about being a ragtag group of troops, pulling your assets together and to overcome your weaknesses, than being necessarily just being about numerical superiority. Meticulous Planning is a huge card for neutral players, as it has 2 options for triggering and showcases how pure neutral commanders will benefit from staying in faction. I love this as a tutor effect. I think this is going to be huge for neutral players, and so if you are a neutral player out there, lots of reasons to rejoice just by seeing where they might be headed with their tactics deck. Now, the Light That Brings the Dawn, despite not having it written on the card, this is actually a vow effect, and with no limit to the number of cards that can be attached, Night's Watch units have the potential to become very interesting as the game progresses. Just remember, you can't stack effects with the same name. And finally, Swift Reposition for Targaryens showcases how free actions have been reduced to smaller increments. But in a game about positioning, especially with a faction like House Targaryen, this is still going to be a really powerful card, as free movement is always useful. Now, the potentially more exciting news for Targaryens is that each commander is going to come with an additional tactics card that replaces something in the core deck. And the justification behind this was that the Targaryen commanders come from a wider and more diverse range of backgrounds and experiences, and that needs to be reflected in their decks. So there's a lot to digest here, but the big takeaway is that the upcoming changes to A Song of Ice and Fire the Miniatures game will help reinforce faction identity, reinforce the mechanics that make the game so unique in the first place, like its rank-based combat, its focus on positioning, the tactics cards, rich choice points, and in-game decisions that you're gonna have to make based on all of these things layered on top of each other. Hope you guys have been staying up on top of our visions in the flames, and if you haven't, that this video was useful, be sure to check the A Song of Ice and Fire developer chats, as well as the official CMON articles for a fuller picture. And in the meantime, we hope you get your miniatures on the table.